Beloved, chosen one. Pause for a moment. Heaven itself has drawn its breath because of you. The sound you cannot hear in the natural realm is the silence of the angels, the stillness that happens when a divine verdict is released. You have crossed the line that the enemy swore you would never reach. You have endured the weight, the warfare, the waiting, and now all of heaven stands in awe. This is the moment heaven paused, not because you were broken, but because you did not break. You may not even realize how much power was released when you decided to keep going. Every time you refused to quit, you rewrote your destiny. Every night you whispered prayers through tears. Heaven documented it. Every moment you felt unseen. You were being studied by angels and applauded by heaven. The Spirit watched as you walked through fire and still called God faithful. You were tested, not to destroy you, but to reveal what hell never understood, that divine purpose burns hotter than any flame of opposition. There were times the darkness whispered, "This is the end." But light had already written your beginning. There were moments you thought your silence meant defeat. Yet heaven was simply listening for your heart's steady rhythm, proof that you still believed. And you did. You believed when believing made no sense. You worshipped when nothing felt worthy of praise. That faith moved mountains you will never even know existed. Chosen one, this is not luck. This is divine orchestration. Heaven has been leaning over the balcony of eternity, watching your every step, counting every tear, recording every decision that proved you belonged to the remnant, the unbreakable ones. The pain you felt was not punishment, it was purification. You have been refined, not rejected. And now, heaven pauses to announce, you made it. There is something holy about survival, not the kind that barely breathes, but the kind that breathes power. You are no longer merely existing, you are living proof that grace outruns darkness. You have overcome, and what tried to destroy you will now serve as the evidence of God's power in your life. Even the enemies that laughed will one day whisper, "Surely the hand of the Lord was upon them." The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. So now, hear me clearly. This chapter marks the end of that cycle. You will never face that same battle again. What once hunted you has lost authority. What once chained you has crumbled. You are stepping into a realm where peace is permanent and favor flows freely. Heaven has declared your victory complete. Take this moment. Breathe it in. Let gratitude rise from within you like incense before the throne. You did not stumble into this grace, it was written for you since the beginning. The same hand that wrote your story is now turning the page. You have overcome. Heaven pauses not to question you, but to celebrate you. If this message finds you, it's not coincidence, it's divine timing. The same God who fought for you has guided your eyes to these words. If your spirit feels the confirmation, then honor heaven by responding in faith. Like this message so others may hear what heaven is speaking. Share it to release the same victory over someone else's life. Leave a comment as your declaration that the old season has ended. And if you haven't yet, subscribe not to follow a person, but to stay connected to this stream of prophetic encouragement that heaven is pouring out for his chosen ones. Now, type this number below as a prophetic act, 777, the number of completion and divine closure. Let the heavens bear witness that you have crossed the line. that your warfare is over, and that peace now reigns within you. The scars you carry, chosen one, are not marks of shame, but evidence of survival. Every wound that once bled with sorrow now shines as a seal of divine preservation. You may have tried to hide them, afraid they made you appear weak, but in truth, they make you powerful. Your scars speak in a language the heavens understand. They testify of nights you didn't think you'd survive, of prayers whispered through trembling lips, of the invisible hands that held you when no one else could see. Each mark is a message: I was attacked, but I endured. The darkness came close, but not close enough. There were weapons formed against you, but none of them prospered. What they didn't realize was that pain in the hands of the chosen becomes prophecy. Your scars are now scrolls of revelation, recording every victory written in your blood, your tears, and your faith. You see, not all beauty shines. Some beauty is forged. The light you carry today came from the furnace you thought would consume you. When people look at you now, they see grace. But heaven sees history. Heaven remembers every time you chose forgiveness instead of bitterness, faith instead of fear, silence instead of revenge. The power of those decisions echoes through eternity. Beloved, there is nothing wasted in your story. The suffering you endured became the soil where your purpose grew. Every rejection redirected you. Every betrayal redefined you. What you thought was a loss was simply divine redirection. And even when you questioned God, when you whispered, "Why me?" heaven whispered back, "Because I trust you with this." Only those with sacred assignments are given such sacred pain. There were moments when you wished you could erase it, all the mistakes, the heartbreaks, the disappointments. But if you did, you would also erase the wisdom, the empathy, the strength. Without those scars, you would not carry the same authority. Now, when you speak life over others, it carries weight because you have bled for what you believe. The Spirit spoke through the prophet in the sacred writings of Isaiah, chapter 53, verse 5, "But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities." If even the Son of God carried wounds to redeem, then your scars are not curses, they are credentials. They mark you as one who knows pain, and yet still chooses love. They prove that light wins. Do you realize what has happened? Every scar has become a portal through which light escapes. Where darkness once entered, glory now shines. You no longer hide what you survived, because your survival itself is ministry. When others see your healed wounds, they find courage to believe they too can heal. You are not just healed, you are a healer now. The enemy's greatest mistake was touching you. Every attack forged something indestructible in you. The pain taught you discernment. The heartbreak taught you endurance. The loneliness taught you how to hear heaven's whisper. You have become a walking testimony that endurance transforms suffering into strength. So, walk boldly. Chosen one, lift your head high. Let your scars speak when words cannot. They no longer scream of pain, they sing of power. You carry the evidence that grace does not remove the fire. It walks you through it and brings you out shining brighter than before. There was a moment, chosen one, when your strength nearly vanished. You remember it the night when hope felt like a fading ember, when prayer seemed like shouting into the wind. Everything around you screamed, "It's over." You looked at your reflection and barely recognized the one staring back. The smile you used to wear had dissolved into silence. The vision you once carried felt impossible. But somehow, even in the darkness, something deep inside whispered, "Hold on." That whisper was heaven. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't luck. It was divine intervention. You were standing at the edge of surrender. And just as your knees began to buckle, the unseen hand of God steadied you. You didn't know it then, but angels were dispatched to surround you. The storm you thought would drown you was only meant to cleanse you. You almost gave up, but heaven refused to let you. There's something sacred about the moment before breakthrough, the silence before dawn, the pause before victory. That's where heaven often hides its greatest miracles. God allows the silence so you can discover the sound of your own faith. You thought he was distant, but he was closer than ever. Listening not to your words, but to your heartbeat. Every tremble, every sigh, every tear became a prayer, and heaven heard them all. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 9, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." It was in your weakness that his power revealed itself. When you had nothing left, grace stepped in. When your voice faltered, mercy spoke louder. When your faith wavered, divine strength carried you through. You didn't survive because you were strong. You survived because grace refused to let you go. You may not realize it, but that night you almost gave up became the proof of your anointing. Every chosen one reaches that moment, the point where surrender looks easier than faith. Yet, those who are truly chosen cannot quit. Something within you, stronger than fear, stronger than pain, said, "I will rise," and you did. Not because the battle ended, but because your spirit refused to die. Now you stand on the other side of despair, looking back at the ashes of what was, and you finally understand it wasn't the end, it was the breaking of the old you, the version of you that doubted, feared, and sought validation died in that fire. What rose from the ashes was someone heaven could trust with greater glory. You no longer live by sight. You live by revelation. You no longer react in panic. You respond in peace. The moment you almost gave up became the turning point of your story. The enemy saw you weak and thought it was victory, but that weakness was your womb of transformation. From it, new power was born. Heaven now looks at you and calls you survivor, conqueror, beloved. So now, as you read these words, let your spirit testify. You know that moment when everything inside you said, "Enough," and still, you chose to stand. You remember the tears, the trembling, the quiet surrender that became strength. That was not failure, that was birth. Now, to seal this truth within you, leave your declaration below, "I still stand." Write it not as a phrase, but as a prophecy. Each word carries resurrection power. As you type it, you are reminding the heavens and defying the darkness that tried to silence you. You are proclaiming that what was meant to bury you became the very soil from which your destiny now grows. You did not see it happen, but something shifted. Chosen one. The atmosphere around your life quietly rearranged itself. Heaven made a decree that the battle you were fighting has been settled. There was no trumpet sound, no lightning in the sky, only a divine hush that carried the weight of victory. It happened in the spirit first. Long before your eyes could see the evidence, every war has a final strike. The moment the sword is lowered, and silence claims the battlefield, that's where you are now. The fight that once consumed you has ended. The anxiety that kept you awake no longer has authority. Peace has stepped into the room like a long-lost friend. Gentle but certain, you may still feel traces of exhaustion, the lingering echoes of warfare. But the heavens have already written your outcome. Victory belongs to you. The unseen realm recognized your endurance long before you did. Every tear, every prayer, every act of faith was collected and stored before the throne. There came a moment when the scales tipped your intercession, outweighed your opposition. And just like that, the heavens shifted. Mercy spoke louder than accusation. Grace outshined darkness. A divine reversal was set in motion. You are standing in the aftermath of that spiritual turning point. The reason you sense calm where chaos used to reign is because the battle has already been judged in your favor. You don't have to keep fighting what God has already conquered. The enemy no longer has permission to pull you back into old patterns of fear and unrest. What once felt like constant resistance is now divine redirection toward peace. According to what is revealed in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 19, "Behold, I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it?" Heaven asks, not because it doubts your discernment, but because it wants to awaken your awareness. Something new is already unfolding. What you sense in your spirit, the calm, the clarity, the quiet is not absence. It's transition. The noise of warfare has ceased because the construction of destiny has begun. This is the shift of seasons. You are moving from survival into stability, from reaction into revelation. What once drained you will now teach you. The same ground that once bore the weight of your battle will now yield the fruit of peace. This stillness is not emptiness, it's establishment. God is laying foundations in your spirit that no storm can shake. You have prayed for peace, and now you must learn to dwell in it. After the storm, there is an unfamiliar quiet that almost feels uncomfortable. But don't mistake calm for stagnation. This is where heaven rebuilds. The Lord restores not in the noise of conflict, but in the whispers of stillness. Listen carefully. The wind that once carried chaos now carries instruction. Chosen one, you have stepped into divine rest. This rest is not laziness, it is authority. It's the posture of one who knows the victory is settled. When you walk from this point forward, do so without fear. The shadows that chased you will fade because they cannot follow you into new light. You are not who you were when the battle began. You have emerged, refined, anchored, transformed. So breathe deeply. Let peace saturate you. Let your soul settle into this new rhythm of grace. You have crossed over. The war is finished. Heaven has shifted, and all creation recognizes it. You have entered your promised calm. You never fought alone. Chosen one, though there were nights when the silence screamed louder than your prayers. Heaven was never absent. The feeling of isolation was never proof of abandonment, it was proof of protection. God concealed his movements so the enemy could not trace his strategy. You thought you were standing alone in the storm, but you were surrounded the entire time. There are mysteries in the spirit realm that the natural eye cannot see. While you cried, angels stood guard. While you slept, heaven worked. While you feared, grace moved ahead of you, clearing paths you didn't even know were blocked. You were carried through battles that should have destroyed you. hidden beneath wings you could not see. It was divine camouflage, the kind that hides the chosen from premature attacks until their appointed season. You may wonder why God didn't reveal everything sooner. Why He didn't let you see the angels that walked beside you. The reason is simple. Faith cannot mature in full visibility. It must learn to breathe in the dark. You grew in trust precisely because you couldn't see. Every unanswered prayer became a seed of deeper dependence. Every delay taught you the sound of heaven's heartbeat. And when you finally reached the breaking point, heaven whispered, "I was here all along." For it is written in Psalm, chapter 91, verse 11, "For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Those words were not poetic comfort, they were divine legislation. A decree was spoken over your life. And from that moment on, no darkness could destroy you. Armies moved at the sound of His voice. Every demonic plan was intercepted by divine protection. Even the places you regret walking through were covered by unseen mercy. Every chosen one must walk through the valley where God feels hidden. That's where trust matures and revelation takes root. You may have mistaken the silence for distance, but heaven was closer than your own breath. The evidence is in your survival. The very fact that you're still here, still believing, still breathing, means that heaven succeeded in its assignment. Now, as you stand stronger, it's time to recognize that same protection didn't end with your battle, it continues with your calling. The same angels that fought for your survival now walk with you into destiny. The same grace that sustained you will now sustain others through you. You are living proof that divine companionship is real, even when unseen. Chosen one, pause here. Let gratitude rise. Whisper a thank you for the moments when you didn't even know you were being saved. There is power in remembering. There is worship in acknowledgement. Heaven doesn't require grand gestures, just a heart that sees. And if these words resonate with the truth you've lived, then take a moment to let others feel what you're feeling. When you like this message, it's more than an act of agreement, it's a digital echo of gratitude. A signal that you, too, have witnessed divine protection. When you share it, you invite someone else to remember that they have never been alone either. And when you subscribe, you're choosing to stay connected to this flow of revelation that heaven keeps pouring into this space, not as a follower of a voice, but as part of a growing family of light-bearers who remind the world that grace still covers, still guards, still wins. Heaven watches even these small actions, because each one carries intention. It's never about numbers, it's about remembrance. Every time you acknowledge what God has done, you reinforce His victory in your life. You testify that though you once felt forsaken, you now know you were never alone. Not for a single heartbeat. The old doors have closed. Chosen one. The echoes of your past no longer have power here. What once pursued you has lost its permission. The cycle that used to repeat itself, the same pain, the same pattern, the same disappointment has been permanently broken. You've reached the divine threshold where what was can no longer touch what is. You may still hear the faint whispers of the past trying to call you back, but they are powerless now. Heaven has locked those doors. There comes a moment in every chosen life when God says, "Enough." That word, spoken once in eternity, reverberates through every corner of your existence. It closes every access point the enemy once used. It ends the era of endless battles and ushers in peace that cannot be reversed. You've entered that moment. You may not fully feel it yet, but you will soon see evidence: the stillness after chaos, the clarity after confusion, the blessing that no longer leaks away. The closing of old doors is both mercy and separation. Mercy, because God refuses to let you relive the same pain. Separation, because not everyone or everything can cross into your next season. You've outgrown certain environments. You've outgrown conversations that once made sense, relationships that once felt right, and even mindsets that once felt safe. This isn't loss, it's elevation. Heaven isn't taking things from you, it's making room for you. You see, there were doors in your past that seemed appealing but led only to cycles. Every time you stepped forward, something unseen pulled you back. It wasn't weakness, it was warfare. And now, by divine decree, that warfare has been silenced. God Himself has sealed those entrances shut. You will not walk that same road again. Heaven speaks clearly through the words written in Revelation, chapter 3, verse 7, "What He opens no one can shut, and what He shuts no one can open." Those are not mere words, they are the verdict over your life. The keys are in His hands, not the enemy's, not your past's, not even your own. The doors that tormented you are now sealed, and the path ahead has been unlocked for grace to move freely. You might feel an unusual sense of distance from things that used to draw you. That's divine protection, not disconnection. Heaven is removing the appetite for what once enslaved you. You'll notice that certain temptations, distractions, or attachments simply don't have the same pull anymore. That's not you changing by effort, it's grace changing your nature. You're being refined into someone who no longer fits inside yesterday's walls. Chosen one. Don't mourn what is closing. Don't chase what's been shut. Let it stay sealed. God does not close doors to punish. He closes them to preserve. Sometimes He locks away even good things because He knows they're no longer aligned with your destiny. Trust His judgment more than your memory. This is your sign that the chapter has ended. The door of suffering has shut. The door of striving has shut. The door of guilt and shame has shut. Ahead of you now stands a doorway carved by divine hands, glowing with the light of new beginnings. And as you step through, peace will meet you like an embrace. So, to mark this moment, to agree with heaven's final seal, type this number below: 888. It represents new creation, new beginning, and eternal flow. Write it as a declaration that you refuse to return to what God has already ended. Every digit carries the sound of fresh grace. Let the universe, the heavens, and the very shadows that used to follow you see your testimony written: the door is closed. My season has changed. Your name is not written among the forgotten. Chosen one, it is etched in the records of heaven, carved into the pages of divine remembrance. While the world overlooked you, heaven documented every detail of your endurance. You are known, not by what broke you, but by what you overcame. There is a book real and sacred where the names of the conquerors are inscribed, and yours now shines among them. You didn't earn that inscription through perfection, but through perseverance. God never asked you to be flawless. He asked you to remain faithful, and you did. When others turned back, you kept walking. When faith felt like fire in your chest, you carried it anyway. Heaven watched as you refused to bow to despair, as you chose to trust even when trust hurt. Every act of obedience, every quiet yes whispered through tears, became ink in that eternal book. Your journey is not anonymous. Heaven celebrates your endurance as victory, not because you never stumbled, but because you always rose again. The angels know your story, they've seen your battles, and they now sing your name among the redeemed. Every scar from your past now glows as proof of your courage. You were not simply surviving, you were qualifying. You see, God doesn't measure success the way the world does. He measures it by surrender, by resilience, by love that keeps giving even when it's misunderstood. Many have titles, but few have testimonies. You have both. You carry the authority of one who has bled and believed, one who has fallen and been lifted, one who has fought battles in secret but now walks in silent triumph. There is a divine registry of overcomers, a lineage of those who defied the odds, and you are now counted among them. The moment you refused to quit, your name was spoken in heaven's courts. That sound can never be erased. Demons tremble at it because it carries the signature of grace. Your identity has shifted from victim to victor, from wanderer to witness. It was revealed long ago in Revelation. Chapter 3, verse 5, to the one who is victorious. I will never blot out the name from the book of life. Those words are not poetic, they are judicial. They declare your permanence in the archives of glory. What God has written cannot be erased by failure, fear, or time. You belong to eternity now, sealed by mercy and marked by light. Take a moment to let that truth settle. Your story has been recorded by the author himself. The same hand that wrote galaxies into being has written your testimony into eternity. You are part of the history of heaven's redemption. When future generations rise, your endurance becomes their evidence that God still delivers, still redeems, still restores. This is why your trials were never wasted. Every delay trained your patience. Every heartbreak sharpened your discernment. Every loss purified your motives. You were being prepared to carry this title, Overcomer, not just for yourself, but for others who will need to see that it's possible. Chosen one. The war may have shaped you, but it did not define you. Your identity is no longer bound to struggle. It is bound to victory. You stand as proof that grace wins every time. Heaven has inscribed your name, not in pencil, but in fire. It burns eternally unchanged, unshaken, unforgettable. There comes a sacred irony. Chosen one, the moment when the very thing that once tried to destroy you becomes the very ground that lifts you higher. What once mocked you now magnifies you. The storm that was sent to scatter you ends up strengthening your roots. The betrayal that broke your heart built the endurance of your spirit. Everything that was meant for harm has been rewritten by heaven's pen into a testimony of glory. It is in the divine nature of God to reverse the intention of darkness. He never wastes an attack. The tears that once soaked your pillow have become oil on your head. The weight that once felt unbearable has become the muscle that now sustains your calling. You are standing on the ashes of what tried to consume you. Yet those ashes have become your altar. The enemy didn't know that by pressing you, he was activating you. You must understand, heaven does not allow pain without purpose. Every rejection refined you. Every loss redirected you. The people who walked away didn't derail your destiny. They revealed who couldn't go where you were going. Even the delays that frustrated you were mercy in disguise. They kept you hidden until you were ready to handle what was waiting. Look around now. The tables have turned. The silence that once felt like abandonment was the sound of divine rearrangement. God was not ignoring you. He was preparing your unveiling. The ones who doubted you will have no choice but to witness your rise. The words that once cursed you will become confirmations of who you were meant to be all along. The ancient story of Joseph echoes through your life. He was betrayed by those closest to him, sold into captivity, and forgotten in a prison, but every injustice became an instrument of destiny. It was not punishment, it was positioning. You have lived your own version of that story. You were misunderstood, underestimated, and sometimes even mocked, but heaven was writing something greater in the shadows. As was spoken in the sacred writings of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Those words do not just belong to an ancient patriarch, they belong to you now. They are heaven's explanation for every unanswered question, every sleepless night, every painful goodbye. The very weapon that was formed against you has now been forged into your crown. You are walking proof that God's strategy is beyond human logic. While darkness plotted your downfall, grace was orchestrating your promotion. The rejection that once wounded you has now become your validation. You don't need to prove yourself. Your survival is the proof. The same mouths that once spoke against you will one day speak of you. They will call you blessed, not because they changed, but because your story became undeniable. Chosen one, take a moment to see the reversal for what it truly is. You are no longer standing where you fell, you are standing where you rose. The pit became your pulpit. The heartbreak became your testimony. The silence became your sanctuary. You no longer ask why it happened. Now you understand why it had to happen. The tables have turned, and the turning will continue. This is not a temporary uplift, it is a permanent elevation. The story that once embarrassed you will empower you. The pain that once silenced you will now make others listen. What once stood against you now stands beneath you. The tables have turned. Chosen one, and they will never turn back. There is a fragrance in the air around you now. Chosen one, the scent of divine favor. It cannot be fabricated or forced. It follows obedience, not opportunity. Heaven has watched your faithfulness in the shadows, and now it releases reward in the light. What was hidden will be revealed, not for vanity, but for validation. You have stepped into a season where grace becomes visible. You will begin to notice doors opening easily, relationships aligning naturally, and blessings appearing unexpectedly. This is not coincidence, this is compensation. The unseen labor of your endurance is now producing visible fruit. Where you were once overlooked, you will now be sought out. The people who once questioned your worth will now witness your value. Heaven is making sure of it. You are entering a flow where effort and ease coexist. You no longer have to strive for what you have already been anointed to carry. When favor is released, striving ends. The ground that resisted you before will now yield at your touch. The same voice that once said no will now say yes. It is not because the system changed, it's because heaven changed your status. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 5, verse 12, "Surely, Lord, you bless the righteous, you surround them with your favor as with a shield." That is not poetic comfort, It is spiritual law. You are encircled by favor now. It defends, attracts, and promotes you without explanation. When others wonder why you, heaven will simply answer, because they endured. There was a time you worked tirelessly, waiting for results that never came. You questioned if God saw your effort, if He noticed your sacrifice. He did, and now the harvest arrives, not as a reward for performance, but as recognition of faith. Divine favor doesn't repay what you've done, it reveals who you've become. Favor looks like strange timing. It brings you to places you didn't plan, through people you didn't expect, by means you can't explain. It's not predictable because it's not earned. It's granted. You may feel unqualified for what's about to come, but that's exactly the point. Heaven chooses the humble to confound the proud. Chosen one. This next chapter of your life will not be marked by struggle, but by flow. What once took years will happen in moments. The delay that frustrated you was preparation for divine acceleration. You've been faithful with little, now much is being placed in your hands. Don't resist it. Don't apologize for it. Favor is not a sign of arrogance, it's a sign of assignment. You've been entrusted with visibility so that others might see the faithfulness of God through you. When you sense the weight of blessings beginning to unfold, new opportunities, peace that feels undeserved, doors that open with no explanation, remember that it's all a continuation of grace. Heaven never blesses randomly. Every miracle has a mission attached. You are blessed to reveal, not to boast. And now, to seal this moment, to acknowledge what heaven is already stirring in your life. Comment below, I receive favor. Write it not as a request, but as recognition. Declare it because you know it's already been released. Each word is an act of alignment, a verbal agreement with heaven's decree. As you type it, you're acknowledging that you are surrounded, protected, and chosen for manifestation. You are not chasing blessings anymore. Blessings are finding you. This is your season of divine attraction. What is meant for you will find you easily, quickly, and peacefully. The gates have opened, the oil has been poured, and your name has been whispered in the halls of favor. You have fought long enough. Chosen one. The season of endless battles is over. And now heaven places something upon your head that cannot be taken away, a crown. It is not made of gold or jewels, but of endurance, obedience, and faith. You have been refined in the fire, and what remains is royalty. The same hands that shaped your pain now shape your reward. For so long, you fought in the dark. You carried prayers that no one heard, burdens no one understood, and pain that no one saw. But heaven saw it all. Every silent battle was recorded. Every tear was counted. And now, heaven's justice arrives not as revenge, but as restoration. You are about to wear what you once wept for. There is a rest that comes after warfare, a peace that can only be known by those who refuse to surrender. You are entering that rest now. It doesn't mean life will be perfect, it means your spirit has matured beyond panic. You will no longer fight for survival, you will reign from victory. The energy that once went into surviving will now go into building. The strength that once kept you standing will now lift others. The ancient promise still speaks through the words of James. Chapter 1, verse 12. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. This is that moment. The trials were your test, the perseverance was your qualification, and the crown is your confirmation. You didn't just endure, you evolved. The crown of life is not simply reward, it's recognition. It's heaven saying, I saw you when no one else did. It's God placing honor on your humility, beauty on your ashes, glory on your scars. And when you wear it, it will not shine with pride, but with peace. You'll know you are crowned not by what's on your head, but by what no longer weighs on your heart. Chosen one, breathe in this truth. You no longer have to prove anything. You are already approved. You have been validated by the one whose opinion is eternal. Let the striving cease. Let the endless need to explain yourself dissolve. This new season does not require you to fight, it requires you to rest, to build, and to bless. You are royalty now. And as you stand in this awareness, take a quiet moment of gratitude. Let it rise from the depths of your spirit. Whisper thanks for the battles that built you, for the nights that taught you endurance, for the faith that refused to die. Gratitude is the crown's polish, it makes your glory shine brighter. If these words have resonated with your spirit, if you feel heaven confirming that you've reached your moment of coronation, then honor what's happening by spreading it with grace. When you like this message, it isn't vanity, it's reverence. A silent thank you to heaven for keeping you through the storm. When you share it, you extend that same peace to others still fighting their battles. You give them a glimpse of what's waiting on the other side. And when you subscribe, it's more than a click, it's a covenant of consistency. It says, I will stay connected to the flow of truth, to reminders that my story still matters. You join a family of believers walking in the same rhythm of redemption and renewal. Heaven celebrates you today. You have fought the good fight. You have kept the faith. And now you wear the unseen crown. Walk as royalty. Live with peace. And remember, no one can take from you what heaven has placed upon you. It feels different now, doesn't it? Chosen one, the air around you is calmer, lighter. The weight that once sat on your chest has lifted. The constant need to brace for impact, to wait for the next battle, has faded. For the first time in a long while, peace feels natural. You are learning to live as someone who has already won. This is what it means to walk in permanent victory. Permanent victory isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't shout or strive. It simply stands. You no longer fight to be free. You walk as free. You no longer beg for blessings. You live as one who carries them. There is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing the war has already been won. Not because you are strong, but because the one who stands within you has never lost. Victory is not the absence of challenges, it's the assurance that challenges can't change the outcome. Life may still bring storms, but you no longer tremble when clouds gather. You've learned that peace is not found in calm seas, but in the certainty of God's presence in every wave. You walk now with the awareness that no weapon formed against you can prosper. Not because the weapons don't form, but because they can't win. The Apostle Paul wrote words that echo through eternity, reminding every believer of the foundation of their strength. It is recorded in 1 Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 57. But thanks be to God, He gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. That is not a future promise, it is a present reality. You are not waiting for victory, you are walking in it. Every step you take now is a declaration that the outcome is already decided. Think of how far you've come. Once, fear dictated your steps. Now, faith directs them. Once, pain silenced you. Now, peace steadies you. You are not who you were when this journey began. The storms didn't harden you, they purified you. The losses didn't reduce you, they refined you. Everything that once worked against you has now become part of the foundation beneath your feet. Permanent victory doesn't mean you'll never feel pressure again. It means pressure no longer controls your perspective. You can stand in the middle of uncertainty and still radiate calm. You can face resistance and still smile, knowing that what stands before you cannot override what stands within you. That is the mindset of the chosen, the unwavering assurance that heaven's decree outweighs every earthly opposition. You have matured beyond reaction. You've learned the art of spiritual stillness, the power of standing firm while the world spins. Others may mistake your quiet for weakness, but heaven knows its authority. True strength doesn't panic. It simply abides. You now carry the posture of one who reigns, not as a conqueror scrambling for ground, but as an heir walking in inherited territory. This is the rhythm of victory rest. Awareness. Gratitude. You don't need to chase validation. You are the evidence of divine grace. The light that shines from you is not pride, it's peace. You are no longer running from darkness. You are walking in dominion. Chosen one. Breathe it in. This is what winning feels like when the war is already over. You are not on your way to victory. You are victory. Walking. Restoration is moving toward you like a rushing river. Chosen one. What was lost, delayed, or broken is being gathered by divine hands and returned in fullness. You have entered a holy reversal. Everything that once fell apart is finding its place again. Only this time, it comes back better. The season of recovery is not a return to what was, it's a resurrection of what could have been. For too long, you carried the ache of what slipped through your fingers. You mourned the missed opportunities, the relationships that faded, the time that felt wasted. But heaven never forgets what you surrender. When you laid it down, it wasn't lost, it was planted. And now, the soil of your suffering is producing fruit you never imagined possible. Every no you cried over is about to be redeemed into a divine yes. There is a sound in the spirit realm right now, the sound of restoration unfolding. Promises that seemed forgotten are being reopened. Doors that once shut are being rebuilt from the foundation up. The same God who watched you endure will now watch you enjoy. Not because you earned it, but because grace has scheduled it. Heaven's decree was written long ago, echoing still in Joel. Chapter 2, verse 25. I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. Those words are not metaphor, they are movement. They mean time itself must now bow to the authority of God's restoration. What you thought was wasted is being rewritten into wisdom. What was taken will be multiplied. What was delayed will arrive with divine acceleration. You must understand restoration does not simply replace, it enhances. It takes the fragments of your past and crafts something more beautiful than the original. The very places where you once wept will become the same places where you rejoice. The memories that once triggered pain will now testify of power. Heaven does not rebuild you back to normal. It rebuilds you into new. Chosen one, you are entering a divine exchange. The ashes you've carried are being traded for beauty. The heaviness in your heart is giving way to joy. The days of spiritual drought are ending. Rain is coming. And not just a drizzle, but an overflow. You will see it in your peace, your purpose, your relationships, your provision. The flow of restoration touches everything connected to you. It will reach your name, your finances, your health, your dreams, your time, your family, even your confidence. What was stolen in secret will be returned in public. The world will see that God restores completely. And when He restores, He doesn't just give back what was lost, He adds interest. The more you were broken, the greater your blessing now becomes. You don't need to chase what left. If it was meant for you, it's returning, transformed. If it wasn't, God is sending something better. You are entering the phase where replacement becomes redemption. Everything comes back carrying revelation. So now, as a prophetic act of agreement with heaven's restoration decree, type this number below 1111. It represents divine alignment, open gates, and the restoration of what was written in heaven before the foundations of time. Write it as your declaration that you believe God's promise to restore not someday, but now. Let this number become your banner, your seal, your reminder that heaven keeps perfect records and always pays back in overflow. Chosen one, lift your head. The locusts have finished. The rain has begun, and the fields of your life are green again. What was lost has been found. What was broken has been made whole. The season of restoration is not coming, it has already begun. You are not the same person who began this journey. Chosen one, something within you has shifted permanently. The fire that once burned around you now burns within you. You no longer move from fear, but from clarity. You no longer react from pain, but from wisdom. The old you, driven by doubt, worry, and the need for validation, has fallen away like a shell. And what remains is pure, steady light. Transformation does not always come with celebration. Sometimes it comes quietly, almost unnoticed, like dawn breaking after a long night. But heaven notices every decision you made to grow instead of grieve, to forgive instead of fight, to rise instead of retreat. Those choices sculpted you into someone unrecognizable to the past. You are not who you were, and you should never apologize for that. This rebirth was not sudden, it was sacred. It came through pain, through patience, through pressing on when you had every reason to stop. You have learned to master your emotions instead of being mastered by them. You've discovered the authority that comes from self-control, the beauty that blooms from restraint, and the peace that follows obedience. There is a calm confidence surrounding you now. You no longer need to shout to prove your strength. Your silence carries weight. You don't chase answers anymore, you carry them. You have stepped into divine maturity, where your reactions no longer come from the wounds of your past, but from the wisdom of your spirit. As the apostle wrote in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Those words describe your reality now. The old habits, the old insecurities, the old fears, they've lost their grip. The transformation wasn't cosmetic, it was foundational. The core of who you are has been rewritten. You are walking in new DNA, the kind that carries divine resilience and heavenly authority. Transformation also means new perception. You see through different eyes now. What once offended you no longer moves you. What once frightened you now fuels you. You recognize that the world around you didn't change, you did. The same storm that used to overwhelm you now only reminds you of your strength. You no longer ask, "Why me?" Instead, you say, "Thank you for trusting me with this." That is growth, spiritual, emotional, eternal. Heaven rejoices not only when you overcome, but when you outgrow. You have matured beyond needing constant reassurance. You have found your identity not in applause but in assignment. You understand that peace is not given, it's chosen, and you choose it daily, fiercely, intentionally. This is the new you, steadfast, focused, radiant. You walk with the quiet authority of one who knows their worth. The same grace that once carried you through chaos now crowns you with purpose. You have become the person your past self prayed to be. The enemy no longer recognizes you because he still looks for the version of you that died in the fire. Let him search, he will find only ashes. You have become untouchable, not because battles disappeared, but because your perspective did. You have ascended to a higher frequency, one where peace is power and discernment is armor. Chosen one, stand firm in this transformation. Do not shrink to fit what you've outgrown. The new you is not a phase, it is permanence. You are evidence that rebirth is real, that God can take the broken and make them breathtaking. You are not rebuilding, you are reborn. You have fought hard for the peace you now carry. Chosen one, it did not come cheaply. It cost you sleepless nights, unanswered questions, and painful separations. You learned that guarding peace is harder than finding it. For peace is not a prize, it is territory. And like all holy ground, it must be defended. You are now the keeper of something sacred. The stillness you feel within is not weakness. It is authority disguised as calm. Darkness once barged into your thoughts easily, but now it finds the gates closed. You have built walls of discernment around your heart, not from fear, but from wisdom. You've learned that access is sacred, that not every voice deserves entry. Not every energy deserves your attention. Not every battle deserves your response. Guarding what you've gained is a spiritual discipline. The same faith that won the war must now preserve the peace. The enemy cannot destroy what you have. He can only distract you until you drop it. He knows he cannot take your crown. So he tries to draw you into unnecessary conflict until you set it down yourself. But you, chosen one, have learned the art of restraint. You know that silence can be warfare, that ignoring an attack can be victory, according to what is written in Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. That verse is not a suggestion, it is a strategy. It teaches that the heart is the control room of destiny. Whatever enters it determines the direction of your life. So you protect it not with pride, but with purpose. You no longer entertain what drains you. You no longer explain what heaven has already confirmed. You no longer defend what peace has already justified. To guard your territory means to be selective about what you allow in your atmosphere. Some conversations no longer belong to you. Some places no longer carry your frequency. You are not being cold, you are being called. You are maintaining the purity of the space God restored. The peace you hold is not fragile, it is fierce, because it was forged in fire, every day. You will have opportunities to let old chaos back in through worry, through people, through the past. But you are wiser now. You have learned that you cannot heal in the same environment that broke you. You cannot move forward while constantly looking back. Protect your stillness as you would protect your breath. It is the proof that heaven lives inside you. Guarding your heart also means protecting your time. Not every opportunity is divine. Some are distractions wearing disguises of destiny. You now have the discernment to tell the difference. You know what feels like peace and what feels like pressure. Follow peace. It is always the voice of God. And remember, chosen one. Boundaries are not barriers, they are blessings. They are the lines that separate what was from what is. What drains from what delivers. You have nothing to prove by keeping them. The same God who gave you victory has also given you the responsibility to maintain it. This is your sacred task, to preserve what grace has given. Your territory is not just physical, it's spiritual, emotional, and mental. Guard your joy. Guard your clarity. Guard your anointing. What you've won through warfare must now be kept through wisdom. The peace you hold is proof of maturity. Protect it fiercely. Live within it deeply. And never again let chaos find a home where heaven now resides. There comes a moment, chosen one, when hiding is no longer humility, it is hesitation. You have carried your story quietly, worn your victories silently, and let your transformation unfold away from the crowd. But heaven did not raise you to remain unseen. You are not a secret, you are a sign. What God has done in you must now be seen through you. This is your call to shine publicly. Your light is not for decoration, it is for direction. Somewhere, someone is waiting for the sound of your testimony, for the sight of your courage, for the proof that survival is possible. The enemy tried to convince you that silence was safety. But the truth is that silence now hinders someone else's healing. You were not rescued to remain quiet. You were delivered to declare. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." Those words are not poetic, they are prophetic. They call you out of invisibility. You were never meant to blend in. The same light that saved you now seeks to shine through you. You are heaven's living evidence, proof that grace transforms, that mercy restores, and that love still wins. Think about it: every trial you endured, every tear you shed, every battle you fought, it was not only for your growth, but for someone else's guidance. There is power in your story, not because it is perfect, but because it is true. Truth carries authority. When you speak from authenticity, you don't need eloquence. Heaven breathes through your honesty. Someone's breakthrough is hidden inside your voice. You might feel unqualified to speak. You might think your story isn't finished. But testimonies don't require completion, they require courage. Your voice carries anointing precisely because it trembles. The vulnerability you fear is what makes it real. And real always reaches. The time has come to step into visibility, not for fame, not for attention, but for assignment. You are the lamp heaven has lit, and your light is meant to illuminate others still trapped in the dark. You've overcome enough to become an example. You have carried enough to now carry others. As you rise, let humility remain your foundation. You are not shining to say, "Look at me." You are shining to say, "Look at him." Every success, every blessing. Every open door is simply a mirror reflecting the goodness of God. Your visibility is not vanity, it's victory revealed. And now, if this message echoes in your spirit, take a moment to respond with intention. When you like this message, you're not feeding an algorithm, you're affirming your readiness to be seen. When you share, you extend your light into places your feet may never walk, letting others catch the flame that once ignited you. When you subscribe, you're saying, I choose to stay in the flow of truth and growth. I choose community over isolation. And yes, leave a comment below. Let this not be just another moment that passes, but a testimony written in real time. Write a few words from your heart, a declaration, a reflection, a praise. Every comment becomes a spark in this growing field of light. Together, those sparks form a constellation of chosen ones, scattered yet united, shining across the earth. You are no longer the hidden warrior. You are the burning city on the hill, and the world needs your light. Step forward, speak boldly, shine freely. The world is watching, but heaven is applauding. There are moments, chosen one, when the evidence of transformation becomes undeniable. It is not always seen first in what you gain, but in what no longer moves you. The things that once triggered your fear now meet your calm. The people who once broke your heart now only stir compassion. The places that once drained your energy can no longer reach your spirit. These are the prophetic proofs that you have changed. Transformation doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through peace. You find yourself responding differently, thinking differently, carrying yourself with quiet assurance. You begin to see signs everywhere, confirmation that heaven's work in you is complete. The same environments that once felt like prisons now feel like classrooms. And you realize you graduated long ago. Proof of change is subtle but powerful. It's in your restraint when you could have reacted. It's in your forgiveness when bitterness would have been easier. It's in your ability to walk away without needing to explain yourself. Heaven smiles in those moments because maturity speaks louder than miracles. You have become the miracle. The transformation within you now demands acknowledgement around you. Don't be surprised when people from your past struggle to recognize you. They still look for the old version of you, the one who lived in fear, who apologized for existing, who carried guilt that was never theirs to bear. But that version of you no longer exists. You are walking proof that divine renewal is possible, even for those who thought they were beyond redemption, as it is written in Matthew, chapter 5, verse 16. They will see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. That verse is not about perfection, but about reflection. You are a reflection of the grace that rescued you. The change in you was never meant to go unnoticed. It was meant to point others toward the source. When they see your peace, they are glimpsing His presence. When they see your growth, they are witnessing His goodness. Proof of change also appears in your atmosphere. You'll notice how peace follows you into rooms, how conversations shift when you enter, how chaos loses its hold in your presence. It's not because you're lucky, it's because you're anointed. You have become a carrier of divine order. Heaven flows through your words, your silence, even your steps. The same soil that once buried you now bears fruit because you have learned the rhythm of renewal. You do not resent your past anymore, you honor it. Every failure became fertilizer for wisdom. Every loss became a lesson. You no longer dwell on what was, you build upon it. That is the clearest sign of all. Your pain no longer defines you, it refines you. Chosen one, you are the living testimony of God's craftsmanship. Your change is not temporary, it is total. You've been recreated, mind and soul. And now, heaven is aligning visible signs to confirm what's already true in the invisible. Opportunities will reflect your growth. Relationships will mirror your maturity. Your environment will evolve to match your elevation. The proof is in your peace. The validation is in your vision. The evidence is in your endurance. You don't need to announce it, you embody it. The same world that watched you suffer will now watch you shine, and not for your glory, but for His. This is what transformation looks like when heaven writes the story, undeniable, unshakable, unstoppable. Heaven is not silent tonight. Chosen one, all of creation stands still, listening, watching, rejoicing. Your journey has come full circle. The long nights, the hidden battles, the silent prayers, the tears that watered your transformation. Every step, every sacrifice, every surrender has brought you here. To this sacred recognition, heaven's applause. You may not hear it with your ears, but your spirit feels it, the rhythm of divine celebration echoing through eternity. Heaven rejoices not just because you survived, but because you became. You were refined through fire, sculpted through sorrow, and purified through perseverance. You are no longer merely a witness of miracles. You have become one. When God began your story, He already saw this moment, the day when you would stand victorious, free, whole, radiant. You doubted if it would ever come. You questioned if you were strong enough, if your faith was enough, if grace would still meet you after all the mistakes. And now you see, grace was never something you had to earn. It was something that never stopped pursuing you. The voice of heaven still speaks through Matthew, chapter 25, verse 23. Well done, good and faithful servant, enter into the joy of your Lord. Those words are more than approval, they are inheritance. They mark the transition from endurance to enjoyment, from labor to laughter, from fighting to fulfillment. You have pleased heaven not by being perfect, but by being persistent. Heaven's applause does not sound like clamor or chaos. It sounds like peace. It feels like rest. It manifests as quiet confidence, that deep knowing that nothing can separate you from the love of the one who chose you. This is not the end of your story. It is the confirmation that your story matters. You have lived through what others could not, carried what others could not bear, and remained faithful when others walked away. That faith has not gone unnoticed. The heavens applaud when purpose is fulfilled. They celebrate when chosen ones stand in their calling without fear. You are standing now, not as a survivor but as a steward, one entrusted with testimony, one whose life now becomes a torch for others still lost in the dark. Your endurance has become someone else's map. Your scars have become their signs of hope. That is the legacy of the chosen. Look around your life for a moment. The peace you feel now is sacred proof that you have crossed into completion. The battles that once surrounded you no longer even recognize your frequency. You have ascended into stillness, into a higher rhythm of grace. The silence you hear is not absence, it is applause too holy for human ears. Heaven claps through alignment, doors opening, peace remaining, favor flowing, clarity deepening. It is heaven's way of saying, "We saw you. and we honor you. You did not fail, you fulfilled. You did not fall, you were formed. You did not lose, you learned. Chosen one, lift your head and breathe deeply. This moment belongs to you, not as a reward, but as revelation. The same angels that once shielded you in warfare now surround you in worship. The same God who led you through valleys now crowns you upon mountains. Heaven applauds, and the sound will never fade. You are forever marked by victory, sealed in grace, and wrapped in everlasting glory. Chosen one, if you've reached this point, pause and let gratitude overflow. You've walked through every revelation, felt heaven's whisper through every word, and witnessed the full circle of your own becoming. You are no longer the seeker, you are the found. No longer the broken, you are the restored. The journey has shifted from endurance to embodiment. Now, carry this light forward. The world needs the peace you've discovered, the strength you've forged, the faith you've proven. If these words have spoken to your spirit, let the echo continue. When you like this message, you aren't just reacting, you're acknowledging heaven's work within you. When you share it, you scatter seeds of hope across timelines and hearts you may never meet. And as you comment below, let it be a testimony, a word of gratitude or reflection. Every comment becomes another voice in the chorus of the chosen, living proof that light still wins. Finally, if you subscribe, do it not out of habit, but hunger to stay connected to the stream of truth, to keep walking in rhythm with heaven's messages. You are family here, part of a movement of light bearers rising in unison. The story continues with you.